All right, thanks, Avery, Dennis, Abhijeet. Been a while. I've had you on a panel. Okay, so so AI adoption is no longer limited to any particular industry or a particular enterprise. We are seeing this happening across retail, telcos, healthcare, manufacturing. With that, my first question is, what has been the biggest barrier to scaling AI from pilot to production in your organization? And I'll make it easier for you. I'll give you some of the options. Is it technology, talent, leadership alignment, or something very different? So, Dennis, can we start with you?
Hi, thank you. Well, one of the biggest barriers actually is the business case. Okay. Usually, users will be asking, we need to have AI, and then why? My biggest question as head of IT is why? What's your case for us to use AI? They will say to generate more emails or to at least create job descriptions. But considering this investment for an AI and exposing the data, that's a bit small business case. So it's really more of the awareness of the users in terms of the use case for an AI. So it's more of alignment of technology versus the use case. That's usually the barriers that I face before we do adapt AI. And I look at a bigger value, like if we use this, what do we get out of it? What savings or what do we generate out of additional revenue? So that's a usually challenge to the business before we adapt to any technology, especially with AI.
Thanks, Dennis. Avery, I'll take that question to you. If you want, I can ask question again. Your biggest barrier to scaling AI from pilot to production in your organization.
Thank you, Neil. We began our foray into AI early last year. And just like any bold moves, we had our fair share of challenges, which along the way allowed us to learn and adapt our strategies and our ways of working. So one challenge I could think of, which until today we continue to navigate from an HR point of view, is the lack of expertise locally. When we started last year, other companies in the Philippines were also just starting out. So understandably so, it's very difficult to find talents who are actually experienced in AI. I'm sure many of you could relate. And so we had to be creative. We had to go for adjacent skills hiring, meaning to say looking at people with expertise in data, software development, coding. And because we are a regulated company, we also had to be creative in terms of bringing in global talents. We know that it's hard to find them locally, so we had to go beyond the Philippine market. And so we looked outside. We started bringing in what we call digital nomads, and today we have a couple of them in our company. Digital nomads are remote workers from across the globe. So we have somebody from Colombia, we have somebody from USA, from different parts. And that's how we tried to address the challenge. So today we still experience it, but because we were able to improvise, find something creative to address the gap, we're able to navigate.
Thanks, Avery, for sharing that. Abhijit, I can't ask you that question uh, as to, but you can definitely share from what you do on an everyday of bringing success to all our customers with AI deployment. From your dimension, what have you seen are the governance mechanism that are being put in place in most of these enterprises to ensure AI is being used responsibly, especially in a customer or an employee-facing function?
Thanks, Neil. Uh, I'm really glad what you both have told about the blockers. And while in last 16, 17 months of my work with Core, globally I've seen the failures predominantly are happening with two reasons, with the alignment of management and running AI as silos pilots and not coming as an cohesive enterprise strategy, and definitely without having a proper use case and the outcomes, it's bound to fail. So thank you so much for sharing with us. When it is being successfully deployed, and one of the reasons is that right from the start of the project, there is a alignment of all the stakeholders. One of them is legal, compliance, and operational risk. And the idea would be that it is not a particular use case, but that use case can be a stepping stone for a large enterprise philosophy of implementing AI. And the right stakeholders are working right from the start to ensure that the entire project, which is one use case, expands into a responsible AI deployment, starting from the design time where a particular, you can say, choice of models, ensuring how hallucinations can be minimized, what kind of data strategy is going to be implemented. Once it is being put up into development, what kind of testing strategies that will be done, not only to check the efficacy of the outcomes, but how it is going to impact the reputational, covering reputational risk for the enterprises. And that's very important. So that's one of the frameworks that is happening. And one of the most important success factors are that once something goes live in the production, there is a constant mechanism of checking the outcomes and from an IT perspective, how the models and the overall ecosystem is behaving. So regular checks of the logs, latencies, outcomes, all this is being monitored, and that as a framework is the guiding force for a successful AI implementation. That's what I've seen.
Thanks for sharing that, Abhijeet. Avery, coming back to you, my question would be, how is AI enabling smarter workforce management and employee experience? And what concerns do you face around change management or data ethics?
That's a very interesting question, because when you really get down to it, we use AI because we want to do more with less effort. We want to do more with better results. And so from an employee experience point of view, if I can just cite a use case, it used to be that when we do hiring, because we have a lot of volume hiring, and volume hiring would be for functions like sales, stores, we have to hire a number of people. It used to be that your talent acquisition people will have to wade through all of the CVs. They will have to do all the screening interviews before they can give it to hiring managers. And that takes a lot of time. So sometime 2023, that was 2 years ago actually, we started to pilot a tool called HireVue. Okay? And HireVue is an AI-powered candidate screening tool through video-based interviews and skills assessment. So now what happens is, you still have to take a look at the CVs because you have to make sure they match the profile given to you by the hiring manager. But now they don't have to interview all of those candidates because it goes through that HireVue tool. Initially, we were getting a lot of pushback. As we know, there's always that perception that AI has human bias, and it actually does. That's why when we started using the tool, we were quite clear in communicating that it's meant to be a data point. It's meant to be a data point on top of the CV. You take a look at the results of the HireVue, then you make a call. Will you progress the talent or not? So that's how we try to change manage. That's one of the things. We properly communicated what it is meant to achieve. The second one is I mentioned about pilot, because while it's very attractive to scale it right away, I think there's a lot opportunity and benefits when you try to pilot, test and learn first and see how it works. Because from our experience, after we tested and learned, we optimized, we maximized the learnings we got from the sessions. And then we also communicated it to the rest of the hiring managers. When we were sure that it will actually help them, that's the only time that we scaled it. So I think learning and change management is that even if it looks very attractive, It's the new shiny toy in the room. You really have to test and learn first and see if it works for your company and for your people.
Thanks, Avery. Thanks for sharing that. That's very interesting. Dennis, coming to you in your logistics ecosystem, how are you leveraging AI to improve operational efficiency, reduce cost, and drive smarter coordination across fleets and partners, especially through a predictive modeling and real-time decision making?
Okay. Just to give you a small background, the company actually works more on a B2B. So we have trading partners. We don't have much customers. So in terms of volumes of transactions, we don't have that much. However, more of the application for an AI use case is actually more on the operational level. Our backend systems is pretty much financials. HR, actually, we don't have much volume. But operating vessels with the fuel costs and route efficiency is actually a big operational initiative for us to get the leverage from AI. Imagine this, from one route to another, one port to another, where we carry the cars and trucks from one port to another, we can go like 20 knots. And that will cost, let's say, $1 million in terms of fuel expenses and operating expenses. However, if you can bring it down to just 15 knots, you can save $200,000. Okay, using predictive analysis from port calls, port congestion, or even market conditions, or even recent events. Previously, what we're doing is actually more human analysis and reactive on hand that. So to reduce the speed, it has to be done after a day or after 3 days. But using better use of data, we're buying data from different sources to generate all this information. That reduction in speed actually translates to a big savings in terms of operating cost, a lot of it. And even the market conditions. Example, there's a big client already coming from one port. The ship can be diverted to take on cargo from one there and basically delay something. And there's an allowable delay that our trading partners actually experience, primarily because of port call or port congestion and several factors. Having that data available within the system or within the fingertips of operations people actually gives us a big operating savings and can be add on to the bottom line of our revenues. Okay. Another part of it is more to having the data of contracts or at least the engagement with our trading partners, having readily information that can be generated. Before it was all reports, all dashboards, but 60% of the data in dashboard is rarely used. It's just used for supporting information. Having concise data to be generated by the key accounts manager to be part of negotiations or market offerings to particular customers actually can give to better sales, better engagement, and longer relationship management to the customers. We don't have a big customer base. We have like 300, but it's only like 30 to 50 are key customers, like the big car manufacturers. So having that data readily available to the key account can give better engagement to these key accounts and lead to longer term partnerships.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing that, Dennis. Now we get to the rapid fire questions, and I'll ask one to each one of you, and you have 30 seconds to answer. Avery, will start with you. What's one decision around AI you wish you had taken earlier or maybe later?
Well, earlier is always better because there's less pressure. If you do it just now, there's a lot of pressure because a lot of companies are already advancing in their journey. So anything that is manual, cumbersome, I think we should just take a look at how AI can make it better, right? because there's so much value that we can bring to the organization if we can let go of that and let AI take over. Okay, but of course that's very sensitive because that's where the human factor comes in. Okay, so we just have to make sure that we don't totally replace the human factor, because like we heard earlier, it's never gonna replace it altogether.
Of course, it's always in conjunction. Okay, Dennis, if you could automate one bottleneck tomorrow in your function with AI, what would that be?
Data at their fingertips. Okay, right now most of the reports is actually a day late or a couple of days late. It slowed down some of the processing and decision making. Okay, but having that data at the fingertips through AI, instead of waiting for dashboards for reports, a simple human query within the system or the function, or even within, we can build a different interface for management reporting, that they can query what will be the forecast revenue for this one, and probably they can make better decisions. Okay, it's the adoption of this intuitiveness of what AI can offer actually will give us that advantage, and actually for us to have that leverage, actually not just for competitors but also for internal business processes.
Thank you. Thanks, Dennis. Abhijeet, now, I know, I mean, it's the last 16 months has been very different, but you have been a banker for decades. So my question to you is, in one word, okay, let's make it one sentence. What's the biggest risk of poorly managed AI in any industry?
I'll give you one word, oops. Because that's how it starts, right? Yeah, but if you ask me, there are two things that comes to my mind, and at least in not only here. So I guess AI is just another technology that is evolving now, but the fundamentals of technology deployments are always be and will always be the same. One of the things that the most important thing is to ensure that you, as a bank, and I'm talking about from my bank experience, but it will be for any enterprise, leave the technology with the technologists and the vendors and own the governance and experience. More than or not, it happens vice versa, where experience and governance is handed over to vendors or consultants, and technology implementation is being done in the garb of DIY. I would think that the better way for enterprises to adopt new age technologies would be to focus on the use cases and how they want to implement and get benefit out of a technology platform, and then just go all out, identify the right platform, and just own the governance and own the experience. And that would be a success.
Thank you. Thanks, Abhijeet. Okay. That's not one sentence, but thought-provoking. All right. So, Avery, Dennis, Abhijeet, thank you so much for the session today and for sharing those learnings with us. And thank you all.